Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. How are we getting on? So, it's patch day, patch 6 is upon us, and it seems to be mostly focused on quality of life stuff this time around. There's quite a lot of bug fixes and other bits and pieces, but they all seem to lean in the general quality of life direction, so let's have a look at what we've got today. So before we jump in, I just want to say I'm going to focus on key points, stuff that I think is particularly important. If you want to have a look at the few bits and pieces I'm leaving out, then link will be down in the description. It should take you to the full patch notes. Now, let's have a look. So, Fallout 76 patch notes, February 19th, 2009. Patch 6 releasing today includes increased stash size, balance and design changes, and another large wave of bug fixes, many of which were reported by players in the Fallout 76 community. As always, this is possible thanks to your support and feedback for the game. Please keep sharing your thoughts and bug reports with us. So, here's quite a big point. Server maintenance. We work on world servers that have been running for a long time and hitting some lag issues. We'll be performing maintenance on those servers more frequently. You may receive an in-game message alerting you to this maintenance when it occurs, and you may be asked to join another world. This should improve the play experience for everyone during your adventures in Appalachia. So, from the sound of things, they've got some instances of the servers that are older than others, or they tend to run for longer, and need restarting basically after a while. So, every so often they're going to be doing additional maintenance on that, aside from the main sort of full game maintenance. So every so often you might get a little pop-up saying, hop across to another one and carry on so we can get this one running a bit more smoothly. Which is good, might be a little disruptive. I'm hoping the in-game message will come up with a little button you can click, or it will just quickly transfer you across so you don't have to go all the way out to the main menu and back again. There's something later on that makes me think that might be the case, but we'll have to wait and see until it actually happens. Balance and design. Power armor. The amount of springs required to craft and repair level 25, 35 and 45 excavator power armor legs has been significantly reduced. Specifically the legs. I'm guessing they were just out of sync with everything else. That's cool. Lowered repair costs are always a bonus. Springs are not too bad to find, but they're not one of the easiest things either, so... Camp, crafting and workshops. Stash limit. Storage limit has been increased from 600 to 800 pounds. So we're now at double the original limit, which is good. On the one hand, there's part of me like, well, why didn't they do this in the first place? Why we had to suffer with it? But that part gets quickly stamped down by the more sensible part of me that says, well, it's better that they do it a bit at a time and make sure they don't muck it up completely and cause massive server issues than... rushing into things and causing those issues. So yeah, definitely willing to wait for things to be done the right way. I think we've got enough issues, so let's not add to the problem. Been reading your feedback. The current limit of £600 could use an additional increase, and after some investigation found that we could offer more storage space in the stash. Yeah, I'm starting to butt up against that quite a bit. I'm gonna have to go through there and see what I'm not using and what I can chuck, because it still seems to be £200 was a big increase previously, and it will be again, but I need to make sure this doesn't happen all over again at £800 really. So, camp placement. If a player's current camp location is occupied upon joining a world, a message will now display which gives them the option to stay in the current world or attempt to join a new one. So previously it just said, we'll set your camp aside, and when you join an empty world that the space isn't occupied in, then we'll put your camp back, or you can replace it. So now it looks like they're just going to streamline that system, so you can immediately just click a button and go look for another world if you want to, rather than having to log all the way out back to the menu and do it the long way, as we did before, which is cool. The process can also be repeated if it happens that you spawn into another area with your campsite occupied. It's basically going to happen if you pick one of the big obvious spots, like just around the vault, or Somersville Lake is pretty popular, places like that. White Spring, I suppose, possibly as well. So I don't understand why people camp there. You're just asking for your camp to be nuked. There we go. So yeah, streamlining that system is always good. Should make life a little bit smoother as you jump into the game, which is cool. Workshops. Players no longer need to interact with claimed workshops directly to contest ownership, and workshops can now be contested and captured from anywhere within the build area. So previously you had to run up and actually operate the red workbench in order to contest it properly, whereas now you don't have to do that. You can just enter the build area and presumably pop-up will come on screen. and you'll be able to contest it straight away. But the point behind this is people were basically fencing off or barricading off the workbench to prevent people from doing that. Which, I don't know, I'm slightly reluctant about this change. Because being able to keep people off your back is a good thing, but they want to encourage PvP around these things, so that's why they're doing this. So basically so people can't prevent the PvP if they want to. Just, I don't know, I have mixed feelings. I get that this is what this mechanic is here to do and encourage, but at the same time, sometimes I just want to, you know, farm a few plans. Somebody really wants it that badly, they can server hop. Yeah, I mean, they've got a goal in mind, people are working around it, they're taking steps to move back towards the goal they've got. Enemies. Scorchbeasts. Increase the timer between successive sonic scream volleys to 10 seconds for Scorchbeasts and the Scorchbeast Queen in order to reduce the frequency of these attacks. This change should help players have more time to react between sonic scream volleys. I've also been reading lots of feedback about Scorchbeasts in general and the community has been sharing rather. And we're looking into further improvements and balance changes we can bring to them in the future. Okay, so what they said in the previous Inside the Vault blog post was that this particular change was coming, and at the same time as doing this, they didn't want to make Scorchbeasts too easy because they're supposed to be one of the biggest, toughest enemies in the game. Sounds like they've got the right general idea here. Reducing the frequency of the sonic scream attack is something that I'm generally in favour of. It's a big screen-occupying. A friend of mine described it as a flashbang, and it's about right. Damage aside, it does kind of blind you for a while. So having those be a little less frequent would be a definite improvement. That said, they're going to have to find a way to compensate for that, I'd imagine. Presumably the way the AI works, it'll just auto-cycle onto the first available alternative attack, which will probably mean they land a bit more often as well, which is yeah, not such a bad thing. Most of the big punchy weapons are up close and personal anyway, things like shotguns and melee weapons, so people who favour those will certainly be able to get their damage in a lot more easily. If you haven't got any ranged options, I'd imagine fighting Scorchbeasts is quite a pain in the neck, to be honest. So yeah, I think that's probably going to be a positive change. Of course, we'll have to, you know, wait and see how it actually pans out, but I'm looking forward to trying that out. And recently got into a fight with the Scorchbeast. You should be seeing a very, very cool picture about that coming up on Instagram quite soon. And that was a good fight, but yeah, that sonic scream attack was just... It was an inconvenience more than anything else, which is not the idea. It's supposed to be a threat, not an inconvenience, so... Good change. PvP. Damaging a camp or workshop object created by another player no longer causes the attacker to become wanted. The object must now be completely destroyed by the attacker in order to flag them as wanted. So basically, if you get attacked near somebody's workshop or camp or whatever, and a stray shotgun pellet or, you know, machine gun bullet happens to tag one of their turrets up while you're trying to take out whatever you're being attacked by, you won't be tagged as wanted anymore. If you manage to completely obliterate the turret, yeah, you're getting tagged then, but that should massively reduce the instances of unintentional damage causing you to be wanted. So yeah, I'm in favour of that change. It also keeps the punishment for people who, for want of a better word I suppose anyway, for people who do want to smash up other people's camps, means that there is that penalty there. So they haven't removed it completely, whilst at the same time people who get caught accidentally are no longer being caught accidentally, which is good. I think that's probably going to be the right balance. So I'm optimistic about that. Sound effects. Pulling the pin on a grenade to prime it before throwing now plays audible sound effects for nearby players. Cool. Very little change, but, you know, one of those fun little quality of life things. You're standing next to your friend and he pulls a grenade, you'll at least know about it. As opposed to having no idea until the thing goes off. You happen to get lucky and see it. So yeah, that's a good change. Makes life a little bit easier and a little bit more immersive, so I like that. UI. And there's quite a lot of stuff under here that I'm not going to look at all of it, so you may want to consider reviewing that further, but big stuff. Player icons. Hovering over a player name on the map will now display their icon. So it's something you can actually buy in the Atomic Shot. It's a little square icon with a Vault Boy picture or whatever you happen to go for, a Nuka-Cola bottle, whatever. I've got an old Vault Dweller picture for mine because my character has grey hair. So that should show up a lot more often now. But it'll show up when you hover over them on a map. It'll show up when you hover over a workshop anybody owns. And if you happen to view a turret placed by another player, it'll show up then as well, which is good. It's this tiny little thing that wasn't really being used to its fullest potential, so definitely a good choice there. Voice chat. So the colour of voice chat speaker icons on the player nameplates now updates based on a player's current status. Neutral is pale yellow, allies display gold, hostile and wanted will display red. You've got an idea about the intentions of the person trying to speak to you. But to be fair, I haven't run into very many people who tried to speak to me. It's kind of surprising since I've added push to talk in. You'd think people would be a little bit more willing to use the talk feature if it's that bit more optional. Bug fixes. There are absolutely masses of bug fixes, as usual, so I'm not going to go through them all. As I say, as always, the link's down below if you want to have a look at more detail yourself. But some of the big ones, loading. There's quite a few on this one. So they addressed an issue that could cause controls to lock up if the player opened the Pip-Boy immediately after encountering a loading screen. I've fortunately dodged that particular bullet, but that would be extremely annoying, so yep, good. Fix an issue that could cause the player to encounter infinite loading screens if they quit the main menu immediately after joining a world. If multiple players on a... if they quit to the main menu rather. If multiple players on a team joined a world simultaneously, or due to an inventory discrepancy. Not sure what an inventory discrepancy is. I don't know if this is a subtle hint at duplicated items, or just a server lag issue, I don't know. But fewer infinite loading screens are always welcome. Again, something else I've got lucky on, but I have run into these things before and I'm well aware of how frustrating they are, so that's cool. Performance. Addressed an issue that can cause hitching or scrapping items. That one I have seen a lot of. Scrap quite a few things all at once, the game takes a second or so to process that. Let's think about it a bit. Hopefully that whole thing will be much smoother now, which is cool. Attempting to craft many items at a very high speed will now result in a delay of up to 1 second between subsequent crafting attempts after the first few. This was done to help improve server performance and should not affect normal crafting. So if you're crafting guns, armour, that sort of thing, probably won't. But when you've got, 20 corn and 20 boiled water in your pocket and you want to convert them into corn soup, or something along those lines, or you're crafting a large number of bullets quickly, I tend to spam those buttons. Same thing with turning dirty water into boiled water as well. I'll tend to spam the buttons and just try and get through that crafting menu as quick as possible, because it's kind of dull to look at. That's now going to slow me down on those things, unfortunately, so not overjoyed. But if it's having a negative impact on the server, which is not something I ever noticed, but I'm willing to bite the bullet a bit on that. I'd rather not have significant negative effects just because I'm impatient, to be honest, so... Addressed an issue that could impact server performance when scrapping a large number of items in rapid succession. Okay, same thing, but with manual scrapping. Addressed an issue that could cause reduced frame rates when many players are firing weapons simultaneously in the same area. Always in favour of anything that improves frame rates. Definitely good. And stability addressed a crash that could occur when interacting with a power armor station while also wearing power armor. So I don't know if it means trying to craft or repair your power armor, or just scrapping things, or what. Or probably both from the tone of that, I'm guessing. But yeah, apparently you could get a bit of a confusion and a crash from that, so good to see that fixed. So, camp crafting and workshops. Blueprints containing a mirror ball can now be placed correctly and are no longer causing an object floating error message. Good. Those things, anything that makes it easier to replace a camp is a bonus. Attempting to place a blueprint, apparently I can't say that word today, containing objects that have been placed on shelves no longer causes an object needs support error message to display. Now, this probably just means if you've put like a footlocker on a set of shelves or something like that. However, it could also imply that they're working on display items to place on tables, shelves, etc, etc, etc to come in the future, which I'm cautiously optimistic about, because we definitely would like to see more things like that to decorate with, so I'm hoping that's what this is subtly implying. Fingers crossed. Budget. Tamed creatures no longer permanently consume camp budget after they're killed. Good, I know that's been a bugbear for a couple of people, particularly those with high charisma builds. Crafting. Fix an issue that could prevent items from being crafted or repaired despite having the required materials if those materials were split between inventory and stash. So yeah, sometimes it'll just say you lack the required items because you've got half of them in your pocket and half of them in your stash. And you'd have to pull out what you needed from one or the other, and in order to get the thing going again, now it should function properly. Good. Minor annoyance, but also if you haven't realised this is what the problem is, then you can get very frustrated and confused. So, players have exceeded the absolute weight limit of £1,500 plus their current maximum carry weight, are now correctly notified that they are unable to craft items while over the limit. Basically, you won't be able to craft anything that will put you over that limit. Address an exploit that could allow items to be duplicated when moving camp locations. Good. Address an exploit that could allow items to be duplicated if a blueprint failed to save properly. Also good. Sounds a bit unreliable if you're trying to do it deliberately, but I'm in favour of that. Recipes and plans. Fix an issue that could prevent a player from crafting a recipe or plan they had previously learned. Yeah, especially if you go to a great deal of effort to get a plan and then you can't go and use it. That would be very, very annoying. So happy to see those functioning more reliably, especially given the cap cost of these things. So you don't want to spend a huge number of caps on the thing and end up not being able to use it. So that's a good change. Good fix. Workbenches. Attempting to place a power armor station on a foundation in a structure that has multiple levels no longer causes it to be placed on the second floor. So it doesn't jump up to the floor above anymore, which is definitely good. Simplest solution previous to this was just to take the section of floor out above it, place it down and then put the floor back. Problem solved, but it shouldn't do that in the first place, and now it shouldn't do it at all, which is great. Happy about that little change. Hopefully a few other things will start being changed along those times, because it seems to be something that happens with other crafting benches as well on occasion. So, enemies. Scorchbeasts Queen can now correctly drop plans from the full range of Ultrasight Power Armor mod plans in her loot list, and players now correctly receive a random roll from her loot list. Cool. Mothman. Fix an issue in which the Mothman would not leave an area when approached or respond to attacks. Yeah, bugged out Mothman. No pun intended. This time. So, items. Clean Clown Outfit. Now correctly counts towards completion of Kill the Wendigos side mission at Freddy Fear's House of Scares. I think it's the full name of it, and they've just abbreviated that. So, apparel. Nuka-Girl rocket suit could no longer be equipped or unequipped while wearing power armor. Nuka-Girl rocket suit outfit has been separated into two pieces, the body and the upper helmet. At the moment, the upper helmet, we're not worn with the body piece, specifically, if you're not wearing the body piece but you are wearing the helmet, looks to be partially floating away from the player character. This is temporary until we can rework the helmet itself, and a necessary change to prevent poor interactions with power armor and under armor. Not quite sure why. I think they go straight for the fix, but I assume it must be more complicated than it appears to be. But if you're using that, make sure you're using both pieces, not one. Players who already own the rocket suit will automatically have access to craft the helmet, so you might need to nip back to your armor workbench and craft the second bit if you haven't already. Punishing legendary effect no longer reflects slap damage dealt by another player. This should prevent cases where a player wearing punishing armor could become wanted unintentionally due to reflected damage that killed their attacker. Okay. So what I would guess from this is that the way the slap damage works is that although you only receive around about 1 hit point of damage, it effectively does the full damage and works along the lines of a damage resistance that automatically just slices it off down to that level. But what I'm assuming this means the punishing armor was doing is reflecting the damage back before the cutoff comes in to reduce it to 1. So the armor was then bouncing back full damage onto the person trying to hurt you, which then caused the attacked player wearing the armor to become wanted because they insta-killed the person attacking them and didn't go through the preliminary PvP thing. Now, the wanted thing is unfortunate. The player getting owned by their own damage is just funny. However, it also... I did wonder if it might result in a player ending up in PvP when they didn't want to fight back because the armor's fighting back on their behalf. So hopefully, if that is the case, that'll get cancelled out as well, so that'll be a good bonus. Fixed an issue causing damage reflected by the punishing legendary effect to be reduced based on the defending player's resistances. So it's supposed to be bypassing the player's defense stats, but apparently it was not, and now it will do. It'll inflict a predetermined amount rather than inflicting however many minus your armor. This is an interesting change, but means it should be working as intended. Cap containers. Now award the correct number of caps and no longer generate only one cap as loot. Yeah, I've seen that a couple of times. It's kind of annoying to grab one and just get a single cap out of it. Thinking, oh yes, great, little bonus to my caps. Sorry, mate. That shouldn't be happening anymore, which is good. Removed an apparel recipe that was not intended to be available in-game, as well as items created using that recipe. Exploit fix. My guess here is this is something that somebody has pulled out of the dev room back when people were getting in there, and it's remained floating around in-game, or possibly been duplicated, so they've managed to get rid of that, which is cool. That's the only thing I can think of as to why you'd be able to access an item that was not intended to be in the game. It's possible that they just mocked up and put it in-game. But yeah, I'd have to know what that is and how it came into being before I could make a call on that, so I am curious, I have to admit. This looks like an interesting point. Removed an erroneously added atomic shop flag from all non-Mothman power armor headlamps. Also added a separate red Mothman headlamp that works once Mothman power armor is equipped. Where do you get Mothman power armor? I like the sound of this and I want some. I've never heard about this before at all either, which is strange. Yeah, definitely want some of that. Sounds like a lot of fun. Power armor. Resistance is no longer correctly reduced when entering power armor while wearing under armor. So assuming it was defaulting to your under armor rather than the resistance of your power armor. Definitely not something I've run into, but I imagine other people have. Power armor now correctly prioritizes the... this is a good one. Correctly prioritizes using the fusion core in the player's inventory that has the least remaining charge rather than selecting them at random. So it just means that you'll go through the least useful fusion cores first, they'll get chucked, and your carry weight will drop off because they're reasonably heavy fusion cores a lot quicker, and it should keep your inventory more also organised. So definitely in favour of that. It's a good little quality of life bug fix. I mean, it's down as a bug, but as definitely a distinct quality of life change. So definitely pleased about that particular fix. That's a good one. So not really a bug, I don't think, but more of a deliberate choice. M79 grenade launcher and the auto grenade launcher now classified as heavy weapons, and they will correctly benefit from all heavy weapons perks, except heavy gunner, as they benefit from demolitions expert instead. Important point, if you are focusing on these, you may no longer have the right setup with your perks, so something to review. Okay. Perks for Martial Artist. Now only applies its attack speed bonus to melee weapons, and no longer incorrectly increases the Gatling gun's rate of fire. Not the fastest firing gun in the world, to be fair, the Gatling gun, but yeah, I can see why that would be like problematic. Also, how the hell does that happen? These things just interact in the strangest ways sometimes. It must make game development a very interesting and bizarre career path at times, though. Interesting thought. This is a fun one on PvP. Being killed by a friend, selecting respawn, and then using the social menu to respawn at that friend's location no longer causes players to remain hostile towards each other. So it should facilitate more friendly duels between groups of friends without, bugging out and causing issues when you decide you want to go back to playing together. That's cool. That's the kind of PvP I can actually get behind a little bit more. Well, in this sort of game, anyway. The idea of a bit of fun between friends is more appealing than some random person running around Watoga, shooting me, doing hardly any damage, and not getting the memo that I'm not shooting back. Not that that happened recently at all. Quests, events, and challenges. Quest containers. Non-quest items can no longer be transferred into Feed the People and Path of Enlightenment quest event containers. The people were putting stuff they wanted and needed in there, and it was disappearing, and they were losing it forever because they'd somehow managed to transfer it from their inventory into the quest container. Won't be happening anymore, so that's good. One of us. The congressional access card no longer lost if a player is disconnected or the server crashes. Basically, that I assume would force you to repeat part of the quest again. You no longer have to do that. Good. Survival. Fixed an issue which prevented addictions currently affecting the character from displaying in the Pip-Boy. Cool. Actually see what's wrong with you now. Diseases. Radworms now only increases radiation damage by 50%. Cool. And no longer incorrectly increases mutation and other effects. So apparently it was having unplanned side effects, and I think it was doing more than 50% damage. But that seems to be one of the more common diseases that gets picked up, so having it reduced in impact a little bit is not a bad thing. Mutations. Fix an inconsistent interaction between class freak, barbarian, and evasive perks that could cause them to stop functioning while affected by herd mentality. Mutation. Mutations again. Healing factor no longer causes players to become invincible while in the down state. Controls. Pressing quick swap key, default left D-pad after the current weapon breaks now correctly swaps to an alternate weapon. Not sure what it was doing in the first place. Don't use a controller. Those of you who do, if your weapon breaks, you can change it more easily. That's generally a good thing. Over-encumbered players who die inside a nuke zone can now correctly respawn at the nearest map marker. Cool. Notifications. This is one of my personal head-scratching moments. Ammo removed messages no longer appear on screen when harvesting flora or other materials shortly after firing a weapon. So I don't think it was doing anything at all, but the random notification was appearing anyway, and it should no longer do that, so that's cool. Fixed an issue where players could sometimes receive a max weight limit reached message while attempting to trade with other players, presumably when they weren't at that point. That's a good thing. Shop. So this is atomic shop stuff. Fixed an issue on PC that could cause the controls to lock up when purchasing atoms. That would be extremely aggravating if you had that problem, so definitely a good fix. What? Purchasing multiple items from the atomic shop in quick succession no longer prevents those items from appearing in crafting menus until the client is relaunched. So people having issues with things not showing up properly should now show up properly. And preview images added for the Kill, Laugh, Love neon sign. Not say I was noticing any being missing, but okay. So, teams. Attempting to join a teammate in a world from the main menu using a social menu no longer causes a message to display stating that they will be removed from the team. Okay, so you should be able to properly join from the social menu if you're on the main menu without it getting confused. Teams. Fix an issue that could prevent team members from loading into the world with a team leader after the leader selected play. Okay, that sounds like a bit of a fundamental issue. Glad to see that's fixed. Fix an issue in which play with team option on the main menu became non-functional while attempting to rejoin teammates in a world following crash or disconnect. Good. Transfer menu. The transfer bar now correctly stops at 1 when scrolling to reduce the transfer quantity. So for some reason it was just carry on beyond the 1 point, going to 0, going to minus numbers? I don't know. I haven't seen this issue. Voice chat. The voice chat speaker icon now correctly appears in player nameplates, in team chat and area chat when a player is speaking. Yay. So, massive patch. A lot of details, a lot of things to look out there. However, quite a few good fixes. A lot of quality of life stuff that I'm looking forward to seeing. It should just generally make life that little bit smoother and a bit more enjoyable and easy to get on with, which is good. We've needed a nice little quality of life pass, and a lot of that takes the form of bug fixes as well, which is fine. So hopefully this sets up a good solid foundation for them moving towards new content fairly soon, which they're teasing like crazy, but not giving us any more information on, unfortunately. But yeah, hopefully it's starting to look like a more solid foundation for that now. Less emphasis on huge changes really in this one, which is, I hope, a good sign. I hope it means the really major issues for the most part have been sorted, and it's just like little smoothing out issues that they're going to focus on now. Just make that experience that little bit nicer for people. Yeah, looking forward to testing this one out. So that will probably be, what day are we on now? I don't even know. Tuesday, so that will probably be Wednesday night. I should be streaming again, and we'll have a look at this patch, see how it goes. So, I do hope that was useful, interesting and informative for you guys. This has been a crazy long take. So, I'm going to go and chop this up now. Got a couple of Fallout videos planned over the next few days in addition to this one, so do keep your eyes open for those. For now, thank you very much for watching. Social media links should be somewhere around on the screen about now. And I look forward to speaking to you all very, very soon.